No.
I said no.
Too soon.
Oh, so bad.
Let's
Oh,
not do
no.
politics tonight.
It's like the Sahara.
Oh man.
The tumbleweeds just blew by in my back alley here. I'm in a back alley waiting to be murdered by a clown,
yeah.
if you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that setup.
Well, thank you.
I had to get like real close to my screen to see it, so I'm like, oh, extreme close up. Oh,
I'm
God.
tiny.
I look horrible.
So sad, man.
No, it's cool. This is not a serious podcast. I can't promise you a certain number of views. We're not sponsored or anything like that. So it's just more, it's a fan thing. And I really appreciate you being here because I think people will love to just hear from you and hear about stuff. But whenever y'all are ready, we can. Are we live? Are we recording?
Yeah, it looks like we're live.
So I'm recording on this end. Caleb, do you got the your end going?
Yeah, I'll do it in 3, 2, 1.
We're not gonna do a song.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is BAMB the Pod. Normally that stands for the Bad Action Movie Brothers, but tonight it's going to be something else. It's going to be the Badass Movie Buddies. I don't know. We have an amazing guest. I have actually several guests tonight. One of them is much more amazing. Another one was actually in a movie, which is cool. No, but thank you all for being here tonight. If you're listening to us for the first time, I'm Brian. This is BAMB the Pod. We do a podcast about movies. We have a drink. We hang out. We have fun. Tonight, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts and our special guests. I have from the Frick and Frack Show, which is a big deal. We have Frick and Frack, a.k.a. Caleb and Matthew, who help us put this together, help put this stream together for us. I have a special guest, Charlton, from the Podcast Emporium off Route 76 above the Chicken Shack. You can find him there. I made that up. But Charlton actually was the one that turned us on to a very special movie that we're going to talk about tonight, at least a little bit, with our very special guest, David Howard Thornton, who we're super excited to have tonight.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So, David.
Caleb,
are you doing sound effects already?
I was trying to find the clapping. Hold on.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
At least it wasn't the
have that one.
Oh God, I hate it when I hear that on like radio shows.
It's blacked out.
That's
good. It's like the most obnoxious thing.
So if you don't know who David Howard Thornton is, WTF guys, why don't you? He's in a movie called Terrifier. It's terrifying. And we have a great opportunity to sit down with him tonight. He has been so kind to offer us a little bit of his time to talk with him. We'll do our best because we're amateurs dealing with a professional here tonight. But he plays Art the Clown in a fantastic horror movie called Terrifier. Now, my first question for you, David, is what's up with this movie?
Oh, God.
I mean, when you see the script for something like this,
yeah,
what was that like?
Oh, I read it and I'm looking at everything because like Damien wrote out all the kills and everything, what was going on. And my first, question to him is like,
So this is obviously just going to cut away when all this stuff's happened. You're just saying this is happening, so we know what's happening. It's like, oh no, we're going to show all of that. I'm like, holy crap, really? We're going to hang up a girl upside down naked and cut her in half and have all that happen on screen. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah. This sounds cool.
you were pretty much like, I'm in. Like, yeah. You weren't like,
gutsy.
Do you need a hug or?
Yeah. Oh, that's the fun thing about Damon. He writes this just freaking messed up stuff. It's like, and he'll bounce ideas off of me for kills and stuff like that, and we'll go back and forth with each other. And it's like when I think about it, like, man, if anybody's listening into like these phone calls or seeing these text messages, they think he's probably a psychotic freak. But like, he is the most even-keeled, like, normal guy you will meet.
Those are the ones you got to watch out for. Right?
Yeah. That's what's really scary. It's like, what is going on up there, man? No one would know that's inside of that head, man.
So you mentioned right off the bat this big kill scene, and I definitely want to turn it over to our other people joining me. I don't want to dominate the conversation all, but since you brought it up, I'm thinking like, Art the Clown, he must have some really great upper body strength. Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, what's his regimen? I mean,
no kidding.
A handsaw like that. I mean, I try to cut quarter round, and I barely, I struggle. So,
good blade, I guess.
Yeah.
It's made out of like, I don't know, adamantium or something, I guess.
U.S. steel.
Yeah, it's whatever Wolverine's claws are made out of. Just sliced right through it, It's so sharp you can't even see the tip of the blade because it's so thin. I don't know. I wish I was that strong. I wish I had that kind of upper body strength. I'm a twig.
Yeah.
Strong breeze comes by and I get blown away.
So we were talking before the show. What's it like getting into that mindset? Like what goes into getting into the mind of a psychopath? I mean, what goes into that?
Well, I probably not what you think, because like I'm not one of these method actors, so I'm not pulling a whole mailing used condoms to people like another certain
Nice.
clown, but yeah, I don't have to do that. It's just like I'm the type of guy that as soon as I understand the character in my head, I can turn them on, turn them off, in a second or so. Which is probably, my co-stars are probably very appreciative of that. So I'm just not on set the whole entire time creeping around and doing that kind of stuff. As usually when they're like, especially if we're doing like a big fight scene or something like that, as soon as they say cut, I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? Which is probably got to look really weird coming from me and all that makeup and blood all over my face. And I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? But yeah, it's just like, I basically took my love of different horror villains and like the Joker was a big inspiration as well, and blended that with my love of like really good physical comedians, especially from the silent film era, and blended that all together in my head, and that's how I came up with Art.
Wow.
So you sort of had some of your own, you brought some of your own inspiration into it to help sort of create the character. And now, I don't know how much on our podcast, we pretty much get all our information from IMDb because I'm sure everything is true, how the internet is.
Oh, at one point they said I had a wife on there that I had been married since 2002. And I'm like, what?
Well, congratulations. Congratulations.
I don't know.
You just didn't know.
Was I in a coma when this happened? Or I'm like, jeez.
But I did read on there that you had some mime experience or something. Is that part of it true?
I wouldn't really say mime experience, but I grew up doing a lot of physical comedy. And when I toured with the Grinch for 5 years, our Grinch, I was his understudy. Our Grinch was Stephen Carl, who was probably writing on the show Lazy Town. And he actually went to clown college, I think, in Iceland. So he was professionally trained in physical comedy and clowning, so he really helped fine-tune everything I had been doing up to that point, which I had never really had anybody that could mentor me in that kind of way, because I think physical comedy to that degree is a dying art, no pun intended. It's just, you don't see that very much anymore. I think basically Jim Carrey's the last person you see doing that kind of stuff.
Well, that's amazing. He was a genius too, I think. My kids grew up watching Lazy Town, and
yeah.
they're small, almost adults now, but it's still a show that like stands up. You know, he was so great in that.
He was so entertaining because that's what I did when I first started understudying him. I heard that he was on Lazy Town, so I got to go watch this just to see who I'm going to be understudying. And I'm like, I started watching it because I'm like, God, he's so entertaining.
He is. He was, yeah.
Like, amazing. What a great character that was. And he was always on, it seemed like, except like when he had his kids around him, you would see him sometimes go into dad mode, which is like, whoa. All of a sudden he's like being authoritative. I'm like, holy crap. Then one sec he's just over there pretending there's a fly flying around. He's like,
that's amazing.
It's like, you just go back and forth like that. It was amazing to watch.
That's such a cool story. I'm glad that's not one that I would expected to have talked about tonight. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, no problem.
Charlton is the one who really turned us on to this movie. I'm a huge fan of horror movies, especially things like this, where it's just like nothing I've really ever seen before. And I thought I had seen everything, literally. And not only are you amazing in it, just it's so evil.
Yeah.
It's so depraved and evil. But I really want to hear Charlton. I know he's super excited to have a chance to ask some questions or at least tell you what his thoughts are.
Definitely. I mean, well, just make a statement about the movie. You know, the skinning scene was what really got me. That was the first time I can ever imagine, you know, watching a horror movie and just screaming, "What the fuck!" Like, just like, you know, just losing my mind. But
you're talking about the Buffalo Bill scene, right?
Okay, that's a better. Yeah, I just
that's
the scene.
Yeah.
That's wild. But yeah, man. So we were talking about this earlier. There is a gentleman named Mike Gianelli who played Hard before you. What ultimately led to, you know, Damien recasting Art with you in the role? Because I found that very interesting.
What it was is Mike was not really a professional actor, I would say. He was just one of Damien's friends. So when he did All Hallows Eve, he's like, "Hey, I got this clown character I need for this. Can you play him for me?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he did that. And when he approached him for Terrifier, Mike had moved on to other things in his life, and he just didn't really want to come back to the character. I think it was also the makeup. He didn't want to go through all the makeup again. So it worked out well for me.
Definitely. We would have maybe never been able to see you, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
I would be very interested to see how Mike would have played him in Terrifier, because I know we do a few things differently, because I'm more I do a lot more of the physical comedy and stuff like that. That's what I feel like I added to the character, was my background in that. But it would have been a totally different performance, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like I'm sorry. I was just going to compare Robert Englund to Jackie Earle Haley with the charm. One had charm and one was just simply scary. But,
yeah.
You know?
That's a good, because Mike was very good at just being just flat out scary.
Right.
But you certainly brought a charm to the character where even though it's like you hate this evil clown, there's something about him that's like almost endearing in a in a freaky way. Is that weird for me to say? I don't know.
No,
he's funny. I mean,
I love those type of villains. Like the Joker, he's that way. Pennywise is that way. It's like I kind of like those kind of villains because it makes you really question yourself, because you're like, why am I cheering for this guy? Why am I laughing at this kind of stuff?
What's wrong with me?
What is wrong with me? This is not right. He's wearing someone's boobs. And something else that most people don't realize if they look lower is like, because it's kind of blurred out a lot, but it's like I'm also wearing her down there.
Wow.
Too. Yeah.
Big reveal. You know, Art the Clown had quite the rack, I must say.
That was a very interesting thing to look down and see those on me, and I was like, Margaret Thatcher on a cold day. Margaret Thatcher. It's like, why am I turning myself on right now? This is wrong. That was also my first night working with Samantha Scafidi on set, who played Victoria, and so that was like, you know, trial by fire for her, because I just come out and I'm wearing those, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm David, and these are my boobs. Welcome to Terrifier." And she just looks at me and just starts cracking up, and she's like, "That's freaking awesome." I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna get along very well." And we were just cracking jokes about it all night. And you know, it was a crazy night on set. I kind of more felt sorry for our crew guys, because they had to watch my skinny butt the whole entire night. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, you guys didn't sign up for this part of it."
That sounds pretty entertaining, though.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't written for me to be like that in the script originally. It was like 2 days before we filmed it. Damien's like, "Dave, I got an idea that you might not like." And I'm like, "What is it?" And it's like, because in the script he's wearing clothes. Oh, and he's just wearing those over his clothes. And he's like, "I think it would be freakier if you're naked and you're wearing the body parts on you." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Yeah, that is freakier."
You're like,
Who wants to see my naked butt up there, though? I'm like,
can't dislagree with that point.
yeah,
It's valid.
yeah, because I've never done nudity before, and I've like I've always been very self-conscious about my body and stuff like that, because I'm a twig. And but I looked at it this way. It's like, you know, if Catherine, who plays Dawn in the film, she's going to be exposing herself in that kind of vulnerable state like she was for that kill scene, and she's totally okay for that. You know, I can show my butt. Sure, let's do this. It's for the film. It's going to be freaky for people. So yeah, let's do it.
Caleb, Matthew, I'm sure you've got more questions.
Caleb, you want to go first?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Joker as well. Like, huge
Yes.
fan, man. You know, and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, you know, or Todd Phillips' Joker, you know, they really brought a lot of things new onto the table.
Right,
You know,
right.
and one scene that in the movie that I always go back to is where he's dancing. You know, the bathroom scene especially. I don't know if you ever heard about the story about how that came to be, but they Joaquin and Todd were both sitting. It was like the day before they were supposed to film the scene, just like with these rewrites, and they were sitting down in the bathroom, and Joaquin, you know, was like, you know, we just got to do something different with this scene, you know, and he just started dancing, and Todd, and it was just like, you know, stuff like that, you know, how you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you don't see in movies anymore. A lot of things are gone, you know, creativity and everything.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to watching Terrifier, man, you know, I was at Charlton's house the first time I saw it, and I was terrified. Like, I'm not good, man. I'm not good with these movies that, you know, there's blood on people's faces and it looks real, you know.
Oh, it's because we used real blood. I'm kidding.
It was just the craziest thing watching it. Like, the whole time I had a sick feeling in my stomach, and that's how I knew it was a great movie, because it made, you know, I always say when listening to music, if it makes me feel something, I respect it. I recognize
cool.
it. And so when it comes down to a movie, there's not a lot of movies, and I'm a huge movie freak. I watch everything that comes out every week, including Coming to America Part 2.
I can't wait to watch that.
You might be let down, but
I still don't care. I'm just happy to
it's good
see
for
Eddie Murphy
nostalgia.
again.
Me too. Me too. I'm about 30 minutes into it, but
That's cool.
the nostalgia is large. But
That's
yeah,
all that matters to
man,
me. I love that kind of nostalgia.
It does, man. And but yeah, when it comes down to watching you as Art the Clown, man, I was so impressed because we originally watched the prequel of it, All Hallows Eve. You know, but you brought a whole nother ball game with your physicality of the character, man. Like, I knew it wasn't the same actor, because you know, you two were completely different, and that's why, man, I just want to say, like, thank you for doing that, because it's cool watching someone go from, like, you know, all right, you know, to something simple to, like, really, really too extreme.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I wanted to do with him, because, you know, he there's so many silent killers out there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something to make him stand out further from those other silent killers that you see in so many other slasher films. And, you know, luckily I'm not just wearing a just plain old mask on me. The makeup I have allowed for that free expression of emotion on my face. So I wanted to bring more of that physicality to the character. So that little bit of heightened realism to him.
And
because he is a clown.
Yeah, you did.
So, yeah.
And, one thing I talk about to everybody, the first thing I told Matt before he watched it was, all I can tell you is that pizza scene, dude, ... And once he saw it, he understood everything, everything I said, anything I said about the movie, he understood, he was awakened by that scene, because we don't see those kind of horror, aspects in a movie anymore. Now it's, let's kill somebody, but let's cut it away before blood, let's go ahead and, Disneyfy it, I guess you can say, and you guys, there was, you can tell there was no filter, know, and that was awesome.
Well, that's what we wanted to do. We didn't want to cut away from those kills. That's something we definitely wanted to add in there. It's just like the brutality of this character. That's what's so interesting about him. You have that juxtaposition between him being a little silly and then he's just brutal as anything, and then he's silly again. And you're like, God, what?
Yes,
he's insane.
It was pretty disturbing, man. When you were doing this and things on the table, I was like, I'm not gonna tell you, I was doing this no.
Yeah.
No. I was. You can ask Charlton. I was like, nah, man, I don't know what's about to happen. Nah. It made me
that was
unsettled.
fun. That was so much fun.
I could tell.
They let me just make tons of facial expressions. They just let the camera roll for a few minutes, and they forgot to say cut, and I just kept going and going and going, and they're like, "Oh God, yes, cut. Sorry." We were just watching you because you just kept going. I'm like, I just wanted to give you options.
The facial expressions were great. I mean, I think they really made the character. Just the fact that you could sort of, I don't know, generate some sort of emotion from the audience just using your face. I think that's some skill right there. That's some comedy skill right there.
Really I learned from those great, legends from back in the day, because, before they had sound in movies, that's how they had to convey intent and emotion, was through those facial expressions. So it was a little bit heightened. Especially a lot of those guys are, former vaudeville actors. So they were used to playing to the back of the stage, and I'm a former stage actor as well. So I'm used to doing the same. So it was an easier transition because usually they tell you to go smaller with your gestures and your expressions when you do film, because the camera picks up everything. But I think, with this character, it's okay because there is that little heightened realism to him because he's a clown. So it was fun. And I liked it that way too, because even though I'm not speaking, you can tell exactly what's going on in my head.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Matthew, that's kind of two different extremes here, right? Because it shows, and congratulations on this, that you were a nominee for the Fangoria Chainsaw Award for Best Supporting Actor, and then you were a winner for the Fright Meter Awards. But then you also won an award for being a Voice Arts Award. Now, those two things are completely different things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it just goes to show your broad spectrum of talents. So
thank you.
So what goes into something where you have to be completely silent? I mean, how long does your makeup take? I want to know everything. I want to know it all.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it is kind of ironic that, that's my thing, is voice work. I do over 200 character impersonations, a lot of cartoon characters. So it's just that's my thing. That's what I've always relied on as an actor, is every role I've played, I've done a different voice for, because that helps me define the character in my head. It's the first thing I try to do is come up with the voice for the character, and everything else kind of falls in place after I discover the voice. And I didn't have that luxury with art. So I was like, oh God. So I love that irony there with that. But
let's get a voice actor to do a character that doesn't speak.
Yeah. Go figure. It's it's like when the cameras aren't rolling, I'm over there doing all my funny voices. So that's gotta be weird in one second. I'm doing something, then I'm like, what's up, Doc? You stinking. This is weird. But you're covered in blood.
What went into makeup? How long were you in makeup before you guys were able to shoot each scene?
Oh, that takes about 3 to 4 hours, depending on how much battle damage and blood that they have to put on, because that's the biggest pain in the ass is the blood, because we don't film everything in order, and so we have to match up the continuity with the blood splatters, which is just a pain. Because we just know there's always going to be that one person that's watching and go, excuse me, but I know it's insane at 37. The blood splatter was a little bit higher on his cheekbone, and the next scene he had 2 blood splatters.
Yes.
You know, it's like, so we're like, oh god, that's an ongoing joke on set with us. It's like,
Teeth is what I noticed. You would have bloody teeth in some scenes, and then some of them they weren't bloody.
yeah,
Oh, there he is. That's
Yeah.
him.
Noticed that.
That's him.
Charlton, you're out of here.
yeah.
Take care, buddy. Thanks
He
for
went
coming
and got
by.
a swig of water or something, gargled. I don't know. It's like spat it out. Yeah. It just because there were some nights where I think what you're referring to is like there was one night we're filming and I had to use mouth blood, and because we filmed the scene where where Jen and I are fighting with a plank of wood, and so she hits me and then I spit out the blood and stuff like that. Then like the next time we filmed, we were filming the diner scene, which takes place before that scene, but they just weren't able to get all the blood off the teeth. I was like, I just look at it that way. It's like right before then, I had just been snacking on something. I went into the diner and I had blood.
Just drinking some blood.
Yeah,
Just probably eating somebody else's face somewhere
it was
else.
probably in my sack, just have a kid's meal in there.
Did you have an idea of what it might been in his sack?
Oh well, you see a little bit of it in
Sure,
the film.
sure.
When he's like unloading his tools and stuff like that. Yep. You see all those. So he's got all that, but I like to think he's got some body parts in there too, just for a late night snack. A hand sandwich or something like finger foods.
Some nipples.
Yeah, as you do.
Now, another thing I thought was really great about this movie that you don't see a lot in a lot of modern movies is the setting, because it really has that sleazy New York kind of vibe that you used to get in a lot of the, late 70s, early 80s movies, like Maniac or some of the Frank Henenlotter stuff, where the city is sort of part of the creepiness. Yeah. And, I just appreciated that aspect of it too.
Well, that was real too. That was not set dressing. That bathroom was just like that. And that it was this part of that was shot in this building that we were in Trenton, New Jersey, that had no running water or no heat, nothing like that. I think it was being used as a chop shop or something. I don't know. That place was sketchy as anything. It's just like, we're just like the floor where I'm lying down there when I'm wearing the boob suit and everything like that. That floor was disgusting. I came up and my hands were black when I was just like whatever I had. I was like, oh, this is. It's like
that's dedication.
The reason I have not, knock on wood, gotten coronavirus yet is probably because of that building. It's like whatever I was breathing in and touching in that building inoculated me to everything.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh, it was
cool
gross.
That you actually used real sets, man.
Oh, it worked. It worked so well. Yeah, it does. Saved a lot of money too.
Yes, it does.
Because we were a very low budget. I think our budget was around $50,000.
Come on,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't even making horror films in the 70s for $50,000.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was made for more than that.
Oh,
wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the 70s.
And we have to ask a little bit about the sequel.
Of course.
Because it's coming.
Yes.
And it was delayed because that's just how everything rolls right now.
Of course, yeah.
2020. But this year maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, we're hoping for fall release. Especially it'd be great if it comes out around October because the movie's set on Halloween, and that's what we originally wanted to release it last October. So that would be perfect. We can release it this October. So it's like I think they did some final shots the other day with one of the actors finishing up a scene, and I think that's basically it. So they're doing final edits and everything like that right now, and there might be some pickups I have to do here or there, but that's easy stuff to add in later on. But I think Damien's goal is to get this into start shopping it to distribution around like late April, early May, or something like that. So
Nice.
it usually takes a few months to set all that kind of stuff up for distribution, but that's what we're hoping for fall.
And of course, we don't want any spoilers or anything. Not that you would give us any. But how was the experience on the second one compared to the first? Was it similar? Was it different? Maybe you had more money to play with this time.
We had a lot of similarities and differences. I would say, it's like because we definitely had a bigger budget. I mean, we're still not a big budget film or anything like that. It's this is primarily a film funded by the fans. Like I would say the biggest chunk of our film is funded by the fans from our Indiegogo campaign, which we're so glad it was a success as it was, because boy, we didn't realize how expensive some of the stuff we're doing in this movie was going to be, because we've gone bigger with things. We've definitely added some big stunt elements and that kind of fun stuff. We're not holding back at all in the kill scenes. I think Damien's outdone himself on the kill scenes in this, because we took that as a challenge. We're like, okay, how are we going to top the hacksaw scene? How? Because we were like, when everybody first saw the film, we're like, oh God, now what are we going to do? Did we set the bar too high for ourselves? So Damien's like, well, let's just throw everything at it and see, swing for the fences here. And so we did. And the funny thing was, with the pandemic, we had started filming this big, huge kill scene right before the pandemic. Then we had to stop filming because of the pandemic for a while. And so Damien took that time that we weren't filming to go back and look at that scene and rework it and rewrite it and expand on it. So what was originally in the script was pretty big enough, but he added so much more to it, and he had the time to really make all the prosthetics he wanted to make. And I'll tell you, there's so many elements to this one kill that it took us about a week to film this kill scene.
Wow!
Because all the different prosthetics we're using in it, and it's mean. It is so mean. It's just. Damien even he was editing because he couldn't. Damien loves to edit. That's his favorite part. It's for him. It's like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we finished filming, he was in there editing it, and he texted me that day. It's like, dude, I'm getting nauseous.
Oh, come on.
And Damien does not get nauseous. He was watching horror films when he was 3 years old. He's named after Damien from The Omen. So this is his thing. So I'm like, you created this, man. So if you're getting nauseous, that means we're doing it right. And
if the stuff from your own imagination is making you nauseous seeing it.
And this was just like a rough cut of it. I've only seen the rough cut of it. I haven't seen it with all the sound effects and the music and all that added into it yet. I haven't even seen the whole entire scene yet. And I was, when I was first watching, I was like, oh God. It's like, oh well, yeah, we're not getting a rated R rating, we're getting NC-17. It's just like this
on by us.
It's just, there were times where I'm just like, God. And I mean, I was even doing that when I was filming. I was like, but it's like, it's one thing to really see it in that. So I can, oh my God, guys, it's mean. People are gonna hate me. They're going to they're gonna think I am just such a vile. I'm really expecting these religious people to come after me and what is wrong with you? You got Satan in you or something.
We can only hope so.
It's like, I swear I'm a really nice guy in real life. I'm not like that at all.
I think that's my favorite part of doing these type of interviews is getting to know the person behind the mask, getting to know the person behind the persona that you're putting on. So, I mean, I don't want to hijack this segment or anything, but what got you into acting? What's the history of David? I mean, where did you start? What was your first scene? What was your first movie? What made you?
Yeah, my parents. My parents really got me into acting. They were doing church theater of all things when I was born, and my mom was directing plays there, and my dad was in them, and so that was just natural for me to be there when my mom was directing something. And then I started getting involved in it when I was 3 or 4 years old, doing the little choir programs and stuff, Moses and the Freedom Fanatics and stuff like that. And it's just but it really, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was basically, when I was in middle school, I was bullied a lot because I was a late bloomer. I didn't hit puberty, until I was in between my sophomore and junior year of high school. So I was, late to the game, and I was really short at the time. My doctor thought I was going to be 5'4" because I was just not growing. I was the shortest person in my class, especially in middle school. It's brutal for me, and I was, short, skinny, glasses, braces, sang soprano in the choir. Wasn't that athletic? I could play soccer, but that's about it. But no one ever played soccer in the South. It was all football, baseball. But so easy target. So I got made fun of, bullied a lot in middle school, and I was miserable. But at home, I was always crazy and doing all this joking around and everything. My mom's like, have your classmates ever seen this side of you? And I'm like, no, I've never had an opportunity to show them this because they're always making fun of me. They won't ever let me be me. And she's like, well, your choral program is doing Mickey's Christmas Carol this year. Why don't you audition for that? Because you do a great Mickey Mouse, so why don't you go in for it? I did, got cast as a character, and we're doing the show, and things start going wrong on stage. Like the set starts falling apart and all that kind of stuff. I had a scene where like it's Cratchit family eating their Christmas dinner, and they had that small little turkey. It was like a little bird, and I put it on the table, and the table breaks and launches the bird over the audience. What? And I'm like, oh boy, it looks like we have fast food tonight. I was just making stuff, and I had everybody just dying laughing, and I just, it's because like most kids, especially at that age, and if something goes wrong on stage, they just freeze up.
Yeah.
And I just launched into a stand-up routine basically, and just started hamming it up until things got fixed, and I went right back into the show and everything. Didn't lose character. But I loved that feeling of having everybody laughing with me instead of at me. And I was like, I love doing this. And so I decided to do a lot more of it. So I started doing community theater and did a lot of that. But I went to college, and I didn't get a degree in theater because I was trying to be pragmatic and practical with my life. I was like, okay, well, acting career is not the most, stable career you can pursue. There's not, the success rate is not the highest. So I was like, okay, what can I do? I mean, I can do theater on the side. I can do community theater and stuff like that. But I come from 4 generations of teachers, and I've always loved kids and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I'll go into teaching. So I was doing that. But then my mom got sick with cancer while I was in college, and she passed away right before my senior year in college. And that changed a lot for me. Because like her final conversation with me, she flat out just tells me, it's like, don't do what you think you have to do with your life. Do what you really want to do with your life, because you only get one shot at this. And it didn't really register at first what she was trying to say until like a year later when I was doing my internship, because I was in a major downward spiral, major depression. I went back to college, and that month's time before and after, my grandmother died, my dog died, my friend committed suicide, and my sister married a homeless man who is now in jail for molesting a little girl. So it's just like, and it was just like, there was just so much going on. I was like, I'm not functioning very well right now. I was doing story time for my kids, and I was doing little voices for all the characters, and they're just laughing and having fun. And it just dawned on me, I'm getting more fulfillment and happiness out of entertaining my students rather than teaching them. I think this is really what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm supposed to be an entertainer. So that's when I went back and called my dad up. I'm like, Dad, I think I want to pursue theater instead, or acting as a career. And I was expecting this big, huge pushback from him because he's a NASA engineer, very, very practical, pragmatic man. And he's like, no, your mom and I always thought that you should be an actor. We just didn't want to tell you what to do with your life. We wanted you to figure it out for yourself. He's like,
That's cool.
Yeah. He's like, take a year off of your studies just so you can get back to who you are, and then finish up your degree and go do what you want to do. But at least you'll have a degree to fall back on if it doesn't work out. And I'm like, okay, sounds great. And that's what I did. And then I moved up to New York. Man. And struggled for 13 years waiting tables.
Come on.
That's always the story, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And then what was your big break? I mean, how did you get cast on this?
Well, I mean, I had just come back from my fifth and final tour with the Grinch, and I was taking about 4 months off because I was like, okay, because when I was waiting tables, it was always hard to audition because I was working so much, and I was like, I just want to take a few months off, and so I just took my unemployment from the tour and focused on auditioning, but I was more focused on trying to do Broadway or like more tours. And I had been up for like 4 or 5 different Broadway tours and final callbacks, and they all fell through for one reason or another. And so I was getting a little bit bummed out then. Because I was like, I am so close to something big happening. And I had never done film except for being an extra in this film or two. So nothing substantial, but I'd always wanted to get in film. And I came across this audition notice online looking for a tall, skinny guy with clowning or physical comedy experience to play Art. And I'm like, this would be perfect because I knew the character already from All Hallows Eve. Loved him. I was like, I'm perfect for this role, and this would be a great way to get my foot in the door in the film world. Because I didn't know it was going to become what it became. I was just like, it's hard. This is a good way to get into film work. I can get a lot of practice this way. I'll have something for my reel. And if this takes off, it takes off. That'll be great. But if not, I'll have experience. And so that's what I did. And it's like the funny thing is, if I had gotten any of those Broadway tours, I wouldn't have been able to either audition for Terrifier or I wouldn't have been able to film Terrifier. So everything worked out the way it was supposed to, I guess.
It wouldn't be the
Wow.
same, that's for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that with us. It's unfortunate it took all of that to get you where you are, but we're happy that you are doing what you're doing. Right. And
it's perseverance. That's what it really is. I think a lot of actors don't understand that because, when you live in a city like New York or LA, you're not a big fish in a big pond. You're a small fish in a very big pond of equally talented fish.
Yeah.
And some people get dismayed so easily and early, and they don't realize that if you really want to do this, you've got to put the time and effort into it and hustle. And it's not going to be overnight success. It's going to take years sometimes. But one project leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and you're always building your way up. So, and if you don't get cast in something, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're horrible or anything like that. It sometimes comes down to things you have no control over. Like one of the times one of the tours I lost is I lost it because of a coin flip.
No,
oh my
no
gosh.
way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, but really, I won that coin toss.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
Well, I'd
You
like
just
to
never
ask
know.
you, if you don't mind, I know the other guys probably have a few more questions, but I noticed one of your castmates on the new movie that's coming out was Felissa Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, I mean,
Is
if
it?
anybody hasn't seen Sleepaway Camp, I mean, she's a legend, right?
Wow.
There you go.
Yes.
What was that like? What was that?
Oh, it's pretty
like?
cool. Oh, Felissa's great. See, we had met doing conventions together, and she basically, I call her my con mama, because one of my first conventions, like Damien and I were very new to the scene. We were very shy because we're like, we don't feel like we belong with all these legends that we all grew up watching in all these movies. So we're just like, and Felissa's like, she'd seen Terrifier, she loved it, and so she's like, "Hey guys, I'm going to introduce you to everybody." So she was just taking us around, and it's like, it's like, "Hey, this is them." And so she's become such a big, huge friend of our film that we're like, we got to have her in part 2.
That's awesome. And you guys do definitely belong. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think with the one movie, you definitely like just inserted yourself right in there in a glorious, disgusting way.
I put my big foot in there, so I had to knock down that door because I think right now we need new blood in the genre right now, because it's just remake and reboot after remake after reboot right now. We need new characters. So that's why I'm happy to see some other films coming out right now. Like I haven't seen it yet, but I hear Psycho Goreman's great.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. Definitely one on my list. I know you guys have some other questions.
I've got two things, then I'll pass the torch. You were talking about reboots and remakes. Who plays the best Joker, David? Who plays the
Mark
best
Hamill.
Joker?
Easily.
That was easy. That was simple.
Easy.
That didn't
And
take
he
up near
ended
enough
up film
time.
because Mask of the Phantasm was released in the theaters.
It's true. It's true.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Last thing for me, you talked about fan-funded movies, and one thing leads to another. What can you tell us about Time's Up?
Time's Up. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do Time's Up because of it sucked. It's because of the SAG mandates and stuff like that. It was just too expensive to have me. It was one of those things that I was talking with LC and Damien Maffei about it, because they're like, it was basically a month before we're supposed to film or finalizing the contracts, and it just, because they're a fan-funded film as well, and it just didn't work out where they had enough money to afford me for it, unfortunately. And I was like, and I'm not even an expensive actor. It's just like, that's just how it goes. Because they wrote a fun little role in there for me, and I was so excited about playing him, and it just ended up where we couldn't do it. But it would have been hard because I've been filming another film called Stream, and so those two would have been really conflicting with each other with film schedule wise. So it worked out the right way, but I still hated I couldn't do Time's Up because it's a great script. Everybody that's in it's fantastic. I'm a big friend of the film. And so it's like, there's no bad blood there at all. I mean, I can't wait to see it myself because I love the script. You guys are in for a treat with that film.
Well, as a podcaster, now I've learned my lesson from going off of IMDb. So that's on me. That's on me.
Hey, we'll submit that revision for you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, I know for me, I had a recommendation for the answer to this question, but so it was Damien's vision, from what I heard, that he was planning on doing a trilogy, and that anything else after that, he just thought it would just get kind of out of hand.
Right.
But, I would like to see a crossover if they were to do a fourth film. And I do have a recommendation for you and Damien, but I'd like to see Art to cross over with and fight if there were a crossover.
And who's that?
No. Who would you recommend?
Oh,
I have a recommendation for you.
I thought about that just a week or so ago, because I was like, oh, it would be fun. And I just saw Willy's Wonderland. I was like, oh my God, wouldn't that be hilarious to see him go up against Nick Cage's character? Because they're both silent. They don't talk.
Yeah, I heard that. yeah. I was supposed to go see it the other day, but then I saw it was on Vudu for rent, and I was like, oh, I should probably just rent it here and enjoy it from my home.
It was fun. It was a fun film. It was fun.
I
would say it was like, it's just like a horror. Five Nights at Freddy is horror, but it's just it feels like Five Nights at Freddy made into a film. So I was like, this is just fun and silly. It did not take itself seriously at all, and I was happy to see that.
Did you see the Banana Splits sort of horror?
I did not yet. I still need to see that.
It's along the same lines, and it's pretty fun if you grew up, knowing who they were like I did. I'm a little older than some.
Oh yeah, I used to watch reruns of it on Cartoon Network.
Yep,
though.
Same.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would recommend that you tell Damien that I said that I want to see Art versus Chrome Skull from the Laid to Rest movies.
Oh yeah. I can see that.
Like I would lose my mind if I saw that.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. It's just, like Damien's thing is like, he has always had a trilogy in mind for the character. He has one story he wants to tell, but he's like, he's like, if we do think of other stories to tell with him, he'd be happy to film it. But he just doesn't want to, go have those jump the shark moments, where you take him to outer space and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like.
That's like, serious.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Caleb, what else you got from you? I know you got one more question.
Yeah, man. So one thing I want to ask you is, what's your dream kill, man?
Oh, my dream kill. I can't say yet. There is a kill, though, that I am determined to get into part 3. now because it didn't show up in part 2. We almost did a little bit of it in part 2, but we didn't. We ended up running out of time, so we weren't able to do it one night. And I was like, oh well. But it's a kill that's based on an old Marx Brothers routine that I have a dark twist on it that I would like to do.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
it. What would you when it, I know everything is scripted and written a certain way, but if you can have it your way, what's a weapon that you would like to use in the actual as Art the Clown? What's any kind of weapon?
Oh God. Because I've used so many now.
You know what surprised me the most while you're thinking was the scene where he just like pulls out the gun.
Yeah.
Honestly, out of all the other gore that went on in the movie, that actually shocked me more than anything because that was completely that came more unexpected to me than the rest, where he's just like, screw it, and just pulls out the gun. I was like, that's the one thing I didn't see coming.
Well, like one thing I would like to do is going off of that is just like I love that the whole bang flag in the gun gag. I love that, but have a dark twist on that. That would be fun to do.
Shoot it and make a finger come out of it.
Like the middle finger, just
some weird balloon animal violence or something.
Because that's what's interesting about Art. Even though he's a clown, he's not really using clown-like weapons to kill people, which people would expect him to do. So it's like it's just more like a killer that has dressed up like a clown.
Yeah.
Because
which the question is he?
We'll find out.
What is his origin?
Yeah, we'll find out.
You heard it on BAM the Pod first.
That's right.
Well, what I also like about him, though, he also makes his own weapons, too. And so it's like there's like a little thing that most people didn't pick up on in the first one. Is like the flail that he uses with all the blades on it, all the rope. That's not rope. That's supposed to be human hair from his victims.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's pretty sick, but that's cool.
Yeah. I think that is such a messed up weapon too, because he's like, it's one thing to just be hit by a whip anyway, or a cat of nine tails, but to have blades and syringes and all that kind of stuff, and very sharp instruments on it. On top of that, that's just God.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I told those guys the name of the weapon. I was like, yeah, it's cat of nine tails. They're like, what's that?
No clue.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much being with us tonight. We want to respect your time. I'm sure we could keep talking for hours about stuff. You've been so fun to have with us.
Oh, thank you.
Does anybody have any last questions before we wrap it up tonight? Or
I don't want to get in this IMBD trap here, but it shows that you've also worked on Gotham, correct?
Yes.
Or is it okay?
Okay, that is true.
Okay,
that is
thank
true.
you. Thank you. I didn't want to go 0 for 2. Big difference between movie and TV shows. What's the biggest difference? And then I'm done. I promise.
Oh gosh, I would say with Gotham, because that was a smaller role, so that was in and out for me. It's like I filmed that on 2 different days. But it was that had such a huge. I'll say it's not really a difference between TV and film because they're so much alike. But I would say it was the difference between a high budget project and a low budget project. It was like Gotham. The crew on that was huge.
Yeah,
it's like everybody has like basically one job that they do, and so it's like boom. I'm like they were having to set up all the special effects and everything for the scene I was in, and they just like, okay, here's your dinner, Mr. Thornton, and we'll be ready for you in a few minutes. We just got to set up the whole scene, got to light it and get sound and set up all the practical effects and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm so used to when I'm doing Terrifier, that takes a few hours sometimes to get all the lights right because we have a smaller crew, and I'm not even finished with my food. It's like 15 minutes later, like, okay, we're ready to roll. I'm like, what? Ready to go already? This is amazing. But at the same time, it's like as great as it is to have a big crew like that, you don't get to know them all. With Terrifier, like the crew is our family. It's like we're all in this together. We all know each other very well by the end of this thing. We're all going through this together, and I think that's kind of a little bit more special in that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. Any last words from any of our co-hosts or from David?
I guess we'll go ahead and say from us, we truly appreciate you, man. It's been a real cool thing getting to meet you and know you on a personal level, and more than just Art the Clown, because you do have another name. Your parents named you David.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that instead of some weird random name like some people in this day and
like
age.
Art.
Yeah, Art. It stands for something different from Arthur or something like that. Artrarius or something like what? Because back when I taught, I would sometimes get some weird names and stuff like that, and I was like, why did? Well, it wasn't my classroom, but my godmother. She had twins in her class one year, and their names were Lemangelo and Orangelo.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, lemon jello, orange jello.
Why?
Yeah, yeah. And then my mom, when she was teaching, she had a girl named Vagina, spelled just like that. And she thought it was misspelled on the roll. And she's like, Virginia. It's like, no, ma'am, it's vagina. And I'm like, oh, no. Was her brother's name Richard? Or is it like, they go together so well, but.
Oh, man. That's
you just got to wonder. Oh, though, when I was a camp counselor, though, I had, if he's listening, I'm so sorry, dude. I hope you were kicking ass this day and age. But I had to warn all my other camp counselors the day before camp started, so they would not just start cracking up when I had to scream this kid's name out for roll call. His name was BJ Cummings.
Oh, man.
Spelled exactly like it. And I was like, oh, God.
His parents, man.
Poor
His parents.
guy.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Poor
you
guy.
just did not think this through.
Yeah,
was
we
like,
have
no.
we have a small town here in Georgia called Cumming, and
Yeah.
some of the headlines there can be pretty entertaining.
Some hard news coming from Cummings.
That's right.
Oh, man. That's crazy, man.
Ooh.
Charlton, what do you have to say, buddy?
Stiff competition there in Cummings.
No, I mean, I'm glad that I got to introduce these guys to this movie. It was plastered all over Bloody Disgusting. I remember just being freaked out by that Cheshire-like smile from Art the Clown, that guy, But yeah, this has been great. I'm so glad I got invited on this and got to meet you and
Yes.
Matt and Brian and yeah, it's been great. This is my first podcast, and thank you guys so much.
Hey, we popped your cherry. Congratulations. Now you can go to Cummings.
Yeah.
That's terrible, man.
You just walked right into that one.
I don't think I can top that one. So I think we'll close out our show tonight with that.
Thank you, David.
Again, this has been David Howard Thornton. It's been such a pleasure to have you on tonight. It's been so much fun.
Been my pleasure.
We can't wait to watch Terrifier 2, and I think there's a lot of people out there still discovering the original Terrifier. I think that it's just the tip of the iceberg, and that this it's already a cult classic to some extent, but I mean, I hope you're prepared to be at those conventions for a long time.
I'm prepared. I love the convention world, so I'm looking forward to it. I can't complain about that in the least. That was actually a dream of mine growing up, was to be on that side of the table one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
Yeah,
there.
literally.
There.
I'm like, I can't complain.
You killed it, David. Literally killed it.
Sorry, Pennywise.
Yeah.
He's got nothing on Art.
No. He's like Barney.
You just have to make fun of him.
Yeah.
You're a loser.
Yeah. Go back to your sewer.
Hey, from the frickin' frack show, man, we appreciate all you guys too. Thanks for doing this with us, everybody.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian, for hosting it, and it's been a real big pleasure finally being on your show.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this. So thanks again, David. and hope
you.
I know everyone's going to enjoy that that listens to our show, and hopefully we can get a lot more people out there to watch Terrifier and Terrifier 2 if they haven't already seen it.
Yes. Please
Yes.
do.
Yeah. for
Please
sure.
do. You'll love it.
You will.
You'll
You
probably
might
hate
hate
me
it.
later.
You might hate it. Let's be honest.
You might
but,
get a little grossed out at times, but you'll have fun.
You will.
Yes.
You'll feel something like
Yeah,
Caleb
you'll
did.
definitely feel something. Nausea,
Emotionally impactful.
fear. I don't know. Elation. You never know. There's some sick people out there.
There's so many complex emotions to Terrifier
So many.
and Art the Clown.
It's like an onion.
yeah,
Got layers to it. It's got
So many
layers,
layers.
donkey.
All right. Well, I think let's call it a night. I appreciate it so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
David.
Thank you, David.